In the hot summer of 2024, when the temperature reached 40 degrees Celsius in almost all the major cities in central China, there was a place that became one of the hottest tourist destinations in China because of its cool climate and rich food. I think you probably know what it is without me telling you. This is the capital city in China that may have the least presence in the past 20 years or even longer, because the heavy mountains have blocked the transportation here, and the heavy mountains have made the products here poor, and because the heavy mountains have made the people here content with life and isolated from the outside world. I grew up in Guizhou and know what Guizhou looks like very well. In the early days, it took 6 hours to sit in a crowded green train from my home to Guiyang, which was less than 100 kilometers away. And Guiyang, for me, is the farthest place I can reach. But when I grew up and saw the outside world, I was surprised at why the development speed here was so slow. Even Chengdu next to it has become unrecognizable to me, but Guiyang still maintains its own rhythm. In recent years, I have gradually discovered that Guiyang is really changing. Of course, this is not just about the well-connected transportation network and popular real estate projects, but also about the people here. Although this change is still slow, my view of Guiyang is changing dramatically. This time, let's talk about Guiyang, which is the city with the greatest potential in China in my eyes. Many people don't know why this place is called Guiyang. The name Guiyang comes from Guishan and Guizhou, but this name is now indeed associated with the very good weather here. After all, Guizhou is a place where there is no sunny day for 3 days. I came back once and found that there was only half a day of sunshine for a month in a row, and the rest of the time it was rainy and cloudy. In addition, Guiyang's urban construction has not made much progress. Those visually old houses and the weather made me feel that staying in this place for a long time would be very depressing. The cool weather here in summer has become Guiyang's most important business card, and I also think this is the reason why Guiyang has become the stock with the greatest potential. We will talk about this at the end. Before I talk about Guiyang, I really want to talk about Guiyang people. This topic is indeed controversial and subjective, but I grew up in Guizhou after all, so I have some knowledge of it. When I first went to Guiyang, it was a long time ago. The impression left on me by the people of Guiyang was that their speech and tone would make people feel that the people here were in a bad mood and not peaceful. When you watch Guiyang people talking, you always feel like they are arguing. It was not until I went to Yunnan that I naturally combined the naturally cheerful tone of Yunnan people with the weather, because Kunming is always sunny, while Guiyang is always gloomy. When I grew up, people from Guiyang always spoke with a kind of ruffian air that I didn't know where it came from, which also left a particularly deep impression on me. I had a very good classmate who was from Guiyang. Later, he was admitted to the civil service system. I think it might be related to his job, and he had to contact a lot of people from Guiyang. After that, the communication between him and me was completely different from when we were children. In the most local words, he was always showing a kind of superiority. Imagine the image of a bad official in a small place, and you will understand what I am talking about. In addition, his strong Guiyang dialect deepened my bad feeling about Guiyang. However, recently, I really feel that people in Guiyang have changed a lot. There is less hostility in their conversation and more peace. And I think it is probably related to the fact that the living environment of Guiyang is gradually getting better. The biggest change in Guiyang or even Guizhou is probably the traffic environment. Now Guizhou's highway mileage ranks 5th in the country. Guizhou is deep in the plateau, and it is very difficult to build roads in Guizhou. Guizhou has been closed for thousands of years because the roads here are difficult to travel. You can imagine how important these roads are to Guizhou. These highways have made Guizhou's various remote mountain villages and beautiful scenery no longer a paradise, and the importance of Guiyang has also increased. It has become an important link between Guizhou and all parts of the country. Of course, I think the traffic in Guiyang is also improving rapidly. 3 subways have started running, which is better than the situation before when everyone was stuck on the road. The population of Guiyang is also growing rapidly. By 2023, Guiyang's population growth rate will be the second in the country, behind Hefei. A place with a growing population can have long-term economic potential. Now Guiyang's population is only more than 6 million, which is not much in Chinese cities. If you come to Guiyang for the first time, you will be surprised by the density of buildings here, which is almost the same as Hong Kong. When you come to the world-famous Huaguoyan, you will even feel that Hong Kong is dwarfed by it. I think many people heard about Guiyang not because of the weather or food in Guiyang, but because of the internet celebrity real estate in the world's largest community. In the past 10 years, Guiyang's real estate has changed the city overnight. And this density of real estate, which is rarely seen in other cities in China, has also made Guiyang a real estate internet celebrity city. Not only Huaguoyan, but also in Guanshan Lake and Yunnan, there are many super communities left over from the era of crazy leaps in the real estate market. You can feel the huge demand for housing in Guiyang and even Guizhou, which has expanded rapidly in a short period of time. And such demand has now come to an abrupt end with the decline of the economy and the real estate market. And these huge unfinished buildings are rare for people like me who have traveled to many places. This can even better prove the madness of the times than the world's largest. A friend of mine from Chongqing told me that when he first came to Guiyang, he was like going back to Chongqing 10 years ago. Chongqing, the closest and most similar super city to Guiyang, is obviously moving faster in urban development. Guiyang, on the other hand, has retained a lot of urban construction and lifestyles of traditional southwestern mountain cities. In the urban area of Guiyang, even in the city center, you can see the largest number of old cities. In other cities, this can be called a village in the city, but in Guiyang, it can be seen almost everywhere. What surprised me most was that I thought that clothing wholesale markets like Shirshi Road, which have existed for decades and are full of market atmosphere, would have been demolished or rebuilt long ago. But it is still there, although the flow of people is no longer as prosperous as it was in the past. I don't know whether this is due to the speed of Guiyang's own development or intentional. But when other cities have completely demolished some places that represent the city's historical memory, Guiyang's very traditional commercial streets have been preserved, which has increased the city's life atmosphere. But I have to say that Guiyang's old city really needs more upgrades. Old houses that have been there for 20 or 30 years and streets with electric wires flying across them can be seen everywhere in Guiyang. From what I see now, the entire city of Guiyang has made great progress compared to the past, but it is definitely not beautiful. You can refer to my videos of Chengdu and Fuzhou. The renovation of Yulin Road and Yantai Mountain are very good examples. These old streets are actually the most important memory and heritage of the city. If they are carefully redesigned and renovated, they will be more attractive than completely demolishing and rebuilding. Many people also overlook that Guiyang is actually a place full of historical sites and beautiful scenery. I think I have passed by here countless times in the past 20 years and have also overlooked these beautiful scenery. There is more than just one Jiaxiu Tower and Qianling Park here. If you go deep into Guiyang, you will find surprises everywhere. Yangming Temple is more ancient than Jiaxiu Tower. Although it is in the center of the city, it is extremely quiet. If you want to avoid crowds and tourists, this is indeed the best choice. Dongshan Temple is not high, but you can almost see the whole Guiyang. It is definitely a good place for you to shoot sunrise and sunset. This perfect combination of Chinese and Western Catholic Church, if you only see the peculiar shape of this building, I think you may have lost an interesting experience of exploring the fusion of two cultures. You will find that Westerners are obviously more open-minded than Chinese people in order to spread ideas. There are also forest parks like Aha Lake Wetland Park everywhere in Guiyang. You don't have to drive dozens of kilometers to the suburbs to find a huge forest oxygen bar. On weekdays, there are almost no people in these parks. It is simply exclusive. If I hadn't been shooting a special project on Guiyang, it would have been difficult for me to discover that there are so many places in Guiyang that can relax your body and mind, and these places are also necessary conditions for a city to be livable. In fact, what I said above is the most superficial of Guiyang. In my opinion, the most attractive thing about this city is its atmosphere of life, and this atmosphere of life may even be respected by Chengdu and Chongqing next door. Morning market, night market, street stalls, this is probably the city where you can find the most abundant food varieties. In the middle of the high-rise buildings of Guanshan Lake, the most modern in Guiyang, you can also experience the most traditional morning market. Here, the livelihood of the most ordinary people is preserved, and the lifestyle of going to the market, which is only available in villages, can continue in the city. It is said that the consumption in Guiyang is very high. Eating a bowl of rice noodles on the roadside may cost 12 yuan or even higher, while in Chengdu, you may be able to eat a bowl of dandan noodles for 8 or 10 yuan. But even if you eat in Xingyun market in a variety of ways, you may not spend 100 yuan. This is definitely not the happiness that can be experienced in the big cities in the east of China. There are also natural traditional food streets such as Taiping Road and Jingxin Street. Almost any community or any old street in Guiyang will be your food paradise as long as you are not afraid of spicy food or fish mint. Eat from morning to night, from dusk to dawn. Of course, this is also the second-tier city with the largest number of bars in the country. Guiyang may be a real city that never sleeps. If there is a chance in the future, I can shoot a special episode about Guiyang's nightlife. The life of Guiyang people is full of market atmosphere. It has not been destroyed by the modernization of any city. You can still eat snacks from 100 years ago. In fact, all cities in Guizhou are like this. But compared with many other big cities in China, Guiyang's market atmosphere is particularly prominent. Speaking of this, friends from Chengdu, Chongqing, Changsha, and Wuhan may disagree, but if you have been here, you will know that Guiyang is almost the best among all southern cities. In the past, many people only knew the food in Chengdu and Chongqing, and indeed forgot Guizhou. In my opinion, Guizhou people are no less particular about food than Sichuan and Chongqing. Of course, I believe that their research on peppers should be the best in the world. Eating has obviously become an advantage that Guiyang has not been discovered for a long time. Guiyang has both good and bad sides. Since its development speed was indeed slower than other provinces in the past, it also has a backward side. But when I carefully looked at Guiyang from all angles, I suddenly found that this is the city with the most potential in China. Maybe you don't have this feeling after reading what I said above, so let me talk about my point of view. In the past, due to inconvenient transportation, Guiyang and even the whole Guizhou have been in a closed state. It is not just the people of Guizhou who are isolated from the world, but the whole Guizhou. Transportation is the biggest factor restricting the development of Guizhou. Of course, this biggest obstacle has been cleared now. Guizhou did have a lot of extremely wasteful and unfinished projects in the past. But Guizhou's investment in highways, I personally think this is the biggest benefit for Guizhou people. This will have a far-reaching impact on changing Guizhou's future. Guizhou's scenic spots like paradise, Guizhou's thousands of years of preserved culture, and Guizhou's food culture that has long been hidden in the mountains will no longer be far away. As for Guiyang, it naturally has an excellent natural environment, built on mountains and rivers, and its ancient style has been there since ancient times, but it has been obscured by those not-so-elegant urban buildings. Sooner or later, it will be discovered by everyone, but it still needs to be carefully cared for. And what is Guiyang's biggest advantage? Naturally, it is the weather. The past summer was certainly unforgettable, and Guiyang showed its excellent advantages in terms of climate. The highest average temperature in Guiyang remains at around 21 degrees. Compared with other parts of China that are getting hotter and hotter, the importance of cool Guiyang will naturally become more and more important. This is the biggest benefit of Guiyang. Of course, coupled with the food culture and vibrant nightlife here that are no less than Sichuan and Chongqing. In my opinion, Guiyang is naturally in a state of full buff stacking. For such a powerful city, Guiyang's current status is obviously completely inconsistent with its capabilities. I said that Guiyang has great potential, but there must be many problems. The first thing to bear the brunt is urban construction, which I think is the most intuitive. As I said above, Guiyang still has many old neighborhoods, and I think the impression it gives to Guiyang is broken and old. Although you can feel the full atmosphere of fireworks in these streets, a kind of disorderly lack of planning and management is also prevalent. Living in Guiyang, it is difficult for you to feel the pleasure brought by the elegant environment that you can experience everywhere in Chengdu. This is certainly not just a problem of these old buildings, even if you are in the relatively new Huaguoyan community. I think Guiyang still has a lot of work to do if it wants to be a livable urban environment. In the past summer, Guiyang obviously bore the expectations of tourists from all over the country, but I personally think that Guiyang is obviously not ready. In the hottest 2 months, Guiyang's hotel accommodation industry has been supersaturated. Not only is the service quality uneven, but the price is also naturally uncontrollably rising. This is obviously not well prepared. I can only say that from the government to the private sector, they still maintain the past rhythm, and they have not fully understood their own city potential. Another thing is that Guiyang's current industries are still relatively single. In the past, the introduction of the data industry essentially only took advantage of Guiyang's energy and climate advantages. However, if it was just a server, it would not be able to bring enough employment and economic growth. There must be healthy development of the supporting technology industry. Therefore, while Guiyang is fully committed to developing tourism and livable cities, it must also combine its relatively low labor cost advantage to blossom in other areas. Finally, I will talk about my interpretation as a person who once lived in Guizhou. Guizhou is really a place where corrupt officials are abundant. If you are interested, you can check how many corrupt officials have been removed from office in Guizhou in the past 2 years. In fact, I have heard about the deeds of various corrupt officials from people I know since I was a child. After many years, there is still no improvement. But someone must say that corrupt officials are everywhere, and Guizhou is not surprising. The problem is that if these corrupt officials are in economically developed areas, their influence is obviously not as great as that in economically underdeveloped areas. After all, everyone is making money, and corrupt officials may easily be overlooked if they get some extra legal money from it. But in poor areas, the nature of corrupt officials may be much worse, and they may be greedy for other people's life-saving money. I remember that in the early 2000s, in order to build a road from my home to Guiyang, it took nearly 10 years to build it, and finally dozens of corrupt officials were arrested before it was built. You can imagine how much blood and tears Guizhou people have put into various projects that have attracted worldwide attention in those poor counties in the past few years. The above is my brief evaluation of Guiyang. The beautiful scenery, the unforgettable food, and the pleasant climate here all make the future of this place more possible. Guiyang people also have an unusually relaxed attitude towards life, which I think can also be an important reason to attract more young people to live here. Having young talents is the reason why a place is more prosperous, and these are the reasons why I have such high expectations for this place. When I lived in Guizhou before, I actually didn't visit many places in Guizhou due to limited transportation. Even the closest famous scenic spot to my home, Guiyang, I missed it many times. This time, I finally got to visit this scenic spot, which is no less than Huangguaishu. Let's end the video with the stunning scenery here.